Darcy's heartfelt letter changes Lydia. She says yes through actions, not words. Love redefined their bond, healing, freeing, and offering her the peace she never knew. You ever have a moment where someone says something and your world shifts forever? That night on the rooftop, the city felt quieter than usual. I could hear Darcy breathing beside me, slow and steady, like he was trying to calm a storm inside. The breeze tugged gently at the corners of the blanket, wrapped around our shoulders. We'd done this 100 times before. Tea, stories, silence. But this time, it was different. Something in the air had changed, and I could feel it before he even opened his mouth. He was 24 now, a grown man, and yet, when I looked at him, I still saw the boy I took in when he was 9. Not by blood, but after my sister's passing. He had nowhere else to go. I became his home, and he became my purpose. Raising him was the most natural thing I'd ever done. People used to joke that we were more like siblings or best friends, and honestly, sometimes it felt that way. We understood each other in a way I never really understood anyone else. That night, though, I noticed how his eyes lingered when I laughed, how his words carried weight, like he'd practiced them over and over before saying them aloud. He turned to me, voice barely louder than a whisper. "Lydia, can I ask you something?" I nodded, my heart already picking up pace. If you could have one thing in the world, no matter how strange, no matter what anyone thought, would you go for it? I laughed a little, trying to lighten the moment. Depends on how strange we're talking. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He looked down at his hands, fidgeting with the edge of the blanket. Then he said it, words that would stay with me forever. I have a wish, and I've had it for a long time. I just never thought I'd say it to you. My heart skipped. I waited, but he didn't say more. Silence fell between us like fog, thick and unshakable. I didn't ask what it was. Not right away. I couldn't. Something about the way he said it. It wasn't childish. It wasn't impulsive. It was honest, heavy with truth. I looked at him, really looked. The sharp jawline, the warmth in his eyes, the strength in the way he held space for me. When did he grow into this man? And why was my stomach fluttering like I was the one with a secret? He reached over and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. A small gesture, one he'd done before. But this time it landed differently, like a puzzle piece sliding into place after years of trying to make it fit elsewhere. "I don't want to ruin anything," he said softly. "I just needed you to know." I swallowed hard. My chest ached, but not in a bad way. Just full, heavy with something unspoken. I didn't answer him that night. But I didn't sleep either. He didn't bring it up again, and neither did I. But the silence between us had changed. It wasn't empty. It was charged, like we were both walking through a room full of echoes. Every shared glance held something unsaid. Every casual touch felt like it meant more. And I started to remember things. Moments I'd brushed off before. The way he always noticed when I was tired, how he made my coffee exactly right, how his eyes softened when I laughed at something no one else found funny. Raising him hadn't been easy, but it had been simple. I knew what he needed before he asked. I was there for every fall, every doubt, every success. And in return, he gave me something I didn't realize I needed: consistency, loyalty, a kind of devotion that asked for nothing in return. But now I was starting to wonder if it really had asked for nothing. One morning, he left early for work, and I found a notebook on the table. It wasn't mine. I knew I shouldn't look, but my fingers opened it before I could stop them. Inside were pages of things he'd written, poems, short thoughts, half-finished letters. All about me. Not by name, but I knew. The way he described her voice when she read aloud. How she always smiled with her eyes. How she carried too much alone, but never let it show. His words were tender, careful, reverent, not obsessive, not misplaced, just full of feeling, deep, honest feeling. That night, I sat him down. No small talk. I looked him in the eye and said, "Tell me what the wish is." He didn't flinch. He'd been waiting for me to ask. "I wish I could be the one to take care of you. You've spent your whole life putting others first. You saved me when I didn't even know I needed saving. I just wish I could be the one to make you feel seen, heard, safe. I wish it could be me." It wasn't about romance. It wasn't about some fantasy. It was about balance, about finally giving me the peace I had given him. And in that moment, everything clicked. It wasn't inappropriate. It wasn't confusing. It was human. Two people bonded through pain and trust, and over time, something sacred had grown between us. I didn't respond with words. I just sat there, breathing, letting the truth settle. I thought about all the times I'd cried alone in the shower, all the nights I felt like I didn't matter. And here he was, telling me I did, that I always had. He didn't ask for anything. He wasn't pushing. He was simply offering his heart and stepping back, letting me decide what to do with it. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. I felt seen. After that night, I started noticing everything. The way he held space for me in conversations, the way his voice softened when he said my name. It wasn't that something new was happening. It was that I was finally seeing what had been there all along. I used to think I was imagining it, that my mind was playing tricks on me out of loneliness. But no, this was real. It was in the way he listened, not just to words, but to silences, in how he anticipated what I needed before I even knew myself. It wasn't romantic in the usual sense, not flashy or scripted. It was quiet, sure, and steady. I spent a week in reflection. I didn't talk to anyone about it. There was no one who would understand. The world puts people in boxes, family, friend, partner, and punishes anyone who steps outside the lines. But this didn't feel like rebellion. It felt like truth, a calm, undeniable truth that had been blooming slowly over time. He wasn't a boy anymore. He hadn't been for years. And I wasn't broken anymore, though I had been. And maybe he had helped heal that part of me just by being constant. What kept echoing in my head was what he'd said, "I wish I could be the one." Not, "I want to own you." Not, "I want to change your life." Just, "I wish I could give something back." That kind of love is rare. The kind that asks nothing but hopes for everything. That sees all your flaws and stays anyway. And so I allowed myself to think, what if I said yes? Not to a label or an outcome, but just to the idea. What if I said yes to being cared for, to being seen as more than a role I'd been assigned? I remembered a moment years ago. I was sick and exhausted, and he had made soup from scratch, sat by my bed, and read aloud until I fell asleep. At the time, I chalked it up to gratitude. Now I realized it was love, pure, quiet, patient love. I told him one evening, "You changed me. You made me softer." And he smiled like he already knew. "I didn't change you," he said. "I just waited until you saw yourself the way I do." That broke me open. I'd spent so long being strong, being in control. But with him, I didn't have to be. And the moment I allowed that, I felt lighter, freer. I wasn't falling for him. I had already fallen, slowly, over years of shared glances, unfinished conversations, and late-night confessions. It was never about crossing lines. It was about discovering that sometimes love doesn't arrive in the expected packaging. Sometimes it grows quietly, respectfully, and waits until you're ready to notice. And now, I didn't make a grand declaration. I didn't sit him down or build it up. One morning, I just looked at him differently, and he saw it. That was enough. No need for speeches. Something unspoken had shifted between us. Not tension, not confusion, just clarity, the kind that makes you breathe easier, even if the road ahead is uncertain. He gave me a letter, not on a special occasion, just a plain envelope left on my desk with my name in his handwriting. Inside was a list, not of confessions, not of demands, but of wishes. For me, for my life. Asterisk. I wish you'd stop shrinking to fit into places that don't deserve you. Asterisk. Asterisk. I wish you'd write that book you've been too scared to start. Asterisk. Asterisk. I wish you'd laugh more, even if no one else finds it funny. Asterisk. Asterisk. I wish you'd stop apologizing for being complex. Asterisk. Asterisk. I wish you'd let someone love you, really love you, and I wish it could be me. Asterisk. It was the most beautiful thing anyone had ever written to me, not because of romance, but because of truth. He saw the parts of me I kept hidden from the world, even from myself. The tiredness behind my smile, the ache I carried in silence. And he didn't try to fix me. He just wanted to stand beside me. I realized then the wish wasn't about us becoming something new. It was about honoring what we already were, something rare, something real. I didn't need to define it. I just needed to stop denying it. So I said yes, not out loud, but in 100 small ways. I started writing again. I let him cook for me without guilt. I let myself rest without explanation. I let his hand find mine. When words failed, I stopped waiting for someone else to give me permission to feel happy, to feel loved. I gave that permission to myself. And he was there for every step, never rushing, never expecting, just showing up. That was his love language, presence. And mine became acceptance, not just of him, but of myself, of what we were building, slow and steady, like a garden carefully tended after years of drought. People might not understand. Some would judge, misunderstand, reduce it to something simple or scandalous. But they hadn't lived our story. They didn't know what it meant to find home in a person who'd seen every version of you and chose to stay. He had a wish, and I said yes, not because I was desperate or lonely or confused, but because I finally saw what he saw. A chance to be loved in a way that healed instead of harmed, a way that built instead of broke. Love doesn't always follow the rules. Sometimes it finds its way through grief, through silence, through the cracks in your armor. And when it does, it deserves to be seen for what it is, beautiful, brave, and entirely ours.